Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for being here at our Fayetteville Technical Community College Veterans Day observance. It is our honor to greet you this morning and to celebrate those who have served. I know we have some folks in the back. Please note that there are some seats available, but I know there's more shade back there, and so you're welcome to grab that. We are so excited to have our campus community as well as our wider Cumberland County community here today. And as we begin, I'm going to ask if you would stand to your feet as we post the colors.
Right face, present arm. Order, arm, post, color. Left face, forward, mark.
Ladies and gentlemen, you may be seated. And I want to invite you at this time, if you would, to give thanks to our color guard from the Douglas Byrd Senior High School and Venture Crew 32, Junior ROTC and Venture Crew 32. You'll see them again later in the ceremony. It's my privilege to invite to the podium to offer our invocation Reverend Daryl Carter, a faculty member here at Fayetteville Tech.
Can we bow our heads? Most holy and all-wise God, it's once again that a few of your children have gathered themselves together. We come today to acknowledge you for all that you have done, all that you are doing right now, and everything that you will do. We thank you, Lord, because you have instilled something within us that caused us to rise up and believe in your power, your purpose, and your passion. And in fulfilling those things, we've been called to a life of service and a life of love. Because we were inspired to serve, we answered the call, and we took up the call to do those things that others didn't feel was needful. And we served others, we served this country, and we served ourselves. And because of your love and the sacrifices that you made, we felt that it was not a robbery for us to sacrifice our time, our talent, and even some of our lives in the service of others, to show that through love we might lead people to the place where they would have the opportunity to experience the joys that this world has to offer. We thank you for your presence. We thank you for your here being. And we thank you for the fact that we are all still here. And because we have rose this morning, we realize that our lives still have purpose and that we can go forward and do all those things that you have called us to do. Thank you, and thank you for all that you have done. This we ask in the matchless name of our Lord and our Savior. And the people of God said, amen. Amen.
Well, having given honor to one higher than us, I invite you to please stand and give honor to our nation as two of our Fayetteville Tech students bless us with the singing of the national anthem. Same mic.
All right. Okay, back. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Please take your seats, and as you do, it's my joy to invite to the podium one of Fayetteville Tech's own, needs no introduction, business instructor, mayor-elect of the city of Hope Mills, proud member of the Veterans of Foreign War. Please join me in welcoming Jesse Bellflowers.
All right. Greetings, everyone. On behalf of the Veterans of Foreign Wars and Fayetteville Technical Community College, today is the 248th birthday of the Marine Corps Semper Fi. Tomorrow is Veterans Day, and we know that that's a time to show respect and honor and service for the 18.5 million veterans that live in our great nation. Dr. Mark Sorrell serves as the president of Fayetteville Technical Community College. Previously, he served as senior vice president of academic and student services. Our college is the third largest community college, serving over 28,000 students annually, and we are a leader in the economic and workforce development for Cumberland County, the region, and across our great state. Prior to coming to our college, Dr. Sorrells was the senior vice president for the Golden Leaf Foundation, serving as the chief operating officer. And recently, Dr. Sorrells was named North Carolina Tech Association's Tech Difference Maker of the Year and recognized for his work as FTCC president, which includes his role in helping to found and launch the Carolina Cyber Network, which is a collaborative of 2- and 4-year colleges and universities. Dr. Sorrells earned his undergraduate and Master of Business Administration degrees from the University of Tennessee and completed his doctorate degree in education from East Carolina University. Go Pirates. He is a 1999-2001 William C. Friday Fellow in the Wild Acres Leadership Initiative and completed nonprofit philanthropy leadership programs at Stanford University. Dr. Souls has been married to his wife Leslie for 37 years. Please welcome Dr. Souls as the 5th president of our community college.
So good morning, Fayetteville. That was awfully weak. Good morning, Fayetteville. All right. Hoorah. As I stand before you today, I reflect on a few events, 2 very recently and 1 about 30 years ago. First and foremost, I was fortunate to be asked to ride along with the Veterans Center staff for the Veterans Day Parade last Saturday. I was extremely impressed by the number of ROTC units that we have in our county, in our schools, the enthusiasm with which those young men and women displayed their spirit, their commitment, not only to our community, but to our country. Absolutely impressive. We are extremely fortunate to live in a community that is home to the largest military base in the United States, if not one of the largest in the world. I also reflect on my experience this past week as I flew from Fayetteville to Atlanta to Baltimore. And when I got out of the airport, I walked through the terminal and I heard the ringing and the cry of a town crier. And as I approached where the terminal, where that voice was coming from, it was the acknowledgement of a group of Vietnam veterans who had flown into Baltimore for a celebration. And to speak and to see the pride in those gentlemen, most of them in wheelchairs, most of them in very declining health, but so proud of the contribution that they had made to our country. Not thinking of the sacrifice, but of the great statement that they had been able to contribute to in terms of the American dream and freedom. And then I reflect back in 1992 when I had the privilege of going with my wife and my parents-in-law to Europe and toured Europe. We were actually delivering a shipload of coal to the Ramstedt Air Force Base in Germany. And that coal was transloaded off in Amsterdam. We had to check it in, and then it would go down the Rhine River to Trier, Germany. We would check it in there, and it would be transloaded off by truck to the Air Force Base. And we had the opportunity to go from Holland to Belgium, to France, to Luxembourg, to Germany, and back to Holland. 3 weeks, and being able to be ingrained in some of the culture of Europe. And I was absolutely astonished at the gratitude when you were identified as an American, particularly by the people of Holland, for the commitment and the work to free that country from the Nazi oppression. What was even more striking to me was the opportunity that we took to go to Normandy and to walk out on Pointe du Hoc, which brings tears to my eyes to know what our young men went through, coming from those ships onto those beaches and having to fight through the barrage of machine gun fire from all of those machine batteries along those cliffs, which we were able to go in and stand in, and then walk the grave sites at Pointe du Hoc and in Luxembourg, and visit all the war memorials there throughout Europe. It was a life-changing experience, and an experience I hope that one day I can relive with my children and my grandchildren, because it really points to, and yes, we are a country that is not perfect. We have our flaws, but we are still the greatest nation on this earth, and we have so much to be thankful for. So I stand before you today to say thank you for all of our veterans, for the spouses, and for the families, for the service that you've engendered to our country, for protecting our freedoms. Thank you for the sacrifices that you and your families have made, for your valor, for the wounds you carry, for protecting our way of life, for defending our rights and our liberties. Thank you for courage, for strength, and the dedication to our Constitution and to the American dream. We are forever indebted to you for your loyal dedication and service. May God bless you and shower you and protect you throughout your days here on earth. For many gave a lot, and some gave it all, so that we could be here today and enjoy the freedoms that we enjoy. So thank you for being here. Thank you for the service that many of our vets, and I am so fortunate to brag to my compatriots in higher education about the number of veterans that I get to work with each and every day, and the number of our veterans that have gone on to become pastors and to take that mission forward even further. We need you, we honor you, and we love you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Sorrells. I'd like to now introduce our guest speaker, Miss Andrea Allard. Andrea was a Polish linguist and interrogator and psychological warfare specialist, and was honorably discharged to become a mother to her two sons, Zach and Sam. She climbed the ladder from working part-time in retail while obtaining her bachelor's and master's degrees to working full-time for retail and for a construction company until she came to North Carolina to work for the Department of Military and Veterans Affairs, where she now works as the Director of Transition Services. Please join me in welcoming Miss Andrea Allard.
Get my eyeballs on. Thanks, Robin. I appreciate that. On behalf of Walter Gaskin, Fourth Secretary of the Department of Military and Veteran Affairs, I am honored to be here today as we recognize the veteran community here at FTCC. I'm especially honored to be here as a woman veteran, representing my fellow sisters who have worn the uniform in service to this great country. I come from an Army family. My dad served 26 years through 3 wars, World War II, and he was one of those men that landed on Normandy, Korea, Vietnam, starting as an enlisted Maryland farm boy and ending his service as a colonel in nuclear weapons training. My older brother served 20 years as a Cobra helicopter pilot and flight instructor and flew missions in Somalia and Haiti. My older sister was a Russian linguist who worked as an intelligence analyst during the Cold War. And I also served during that time, keeping the peace as an interrogator, linguist, and psychological warfare specialist. I broke the family trend by marrying my husband, Don, who is a Camp Lejeune Marine. I am not a native North Carolinian, but having completed my military service here at Fort Bragg, now Fort Liberty, and living here for over half of my lifetime, I claim North Carolina as my home. PFC Henry Ellis from Salisbury, First Lieutenant James Wright from Parkton, First Lieutenant Dorothy Austell from Charlotte, Staff Sergeant Millie Dunn Vesey from Wake County, one of the first women of color to ever serve in the armed forces. These are just a few of the North Carolinians who came before us and laid the foundation of what it means to be a veteran of the United States Armed Forces. We call them the greatest generation, the Americans, the North Carolinians, who picked up arms during against the axis of evil to defeat fascism and imperialism in Europe and the Pacific. They are the reason Armistice Day, the day marking cessation of fighting during World War I, was changed by the 83rd Congress to Veterans Day in 1954. Over time, their bravery and valor has become nearly legendary. I say nearly because legends are usually myths. These people lived and breathed. They are more than a Hollywood blockbuster or a black and white picture in a dusty old book. They quite literally gave us the world as we know it today. They are the reason this day came to be. But this day does not belong solely to them. This is not Memorial Day, the day we grieve the loss of the brave men and women who gave their lives in service and sacrifice. This is Veterans Day, the day to celebrate the willingness, self-sacrifice, integrity, and valor of all veterans, especially those who came after the greatest generation, those who willingly chose to pick up arms and carry on the legacy of patriotism and love of one's fellow countrymen. It is a day to pay our respects to those who would lay it all on the line for you and for me, to honor all of those, both living and dead, who would pay the ultimate sacrifice to defend our liberty to be free in these United States. Things are quite different today in comparison to the early 20th century fighting force. It wasn't until 1948, when the Women's Armed Services Integration Act became law, that women were permitted to serve as full members of the U.S. Armed Forces. Today, women make up more than 15% of active duty military and total nearly 2 million living women veterans. The Marine Corps was the first branch to fully racially integrate in 1941, before World War II ended. Today, nearly 43% of the armed forces are made up of people of color. The first African-American Marines, the Montfort Pointers, trained right here in North Carolina at Camp Lejeune. These days, members of an all-volunteer force can sign up online. Just like everything else, the nature of war fighting has changed, and the demands on our future veterans have increased. Soldiers, sailors, airmen, coasties, guardians, and Marines rely on technology and weapons that the greatest generation would recognize more from a comic book than real life. but the passion that draws them to a career of military service is the same as it was for me and the same as it was for the generation before me, to defend the liberties and rights we hold dear as Americans, to lay it all on the line for our brothers and our sisters in arms and the country that we love. The passion of veterans is self-evident, not only in what they do during their military service careers, but perhaps even more so in what they do when they return to civilian life. They come back home and start their families and become civilian leaders, improving the lives of Americans in the real world every day. They create new companies and provide jobs. They engage in public service and run for office, representing the voice of veterans in the halls of the General Assembly and Congress. And just as in their military service, they truly represent the best of what it means to be an American and a North Carolinian. These men and women are a part of, not apart from, their communities. They do all of this while dealing with their own debilitating physical injuries suffered because of years of service. The next time a veteran asks you to repeat yourself, keep in mind the damage that years of mortar round impacts can have on a person's eardrums. Many veterans remain some of the most inspiring, cheerful, and motivated people you'll ever meet. They bring a room to their feet, speaking from their wheelchair. We know more now than ever before about the horrific psychological trauma many veterans have endured. In the aftermath of World War I, poems like Wilfred Owen's Futility and Up the Line to Death by E.E. Cummings crystallized what we now call PTSD. These wounds of war are invisible, yet no less impactful on the lives of veterans and their families. No one could be faulted for giving up and becoming cynical as a result of suffering some of the truly horrific injuries many of our military veterans have suffered. And still, their perseverance and dedication to improving the lives of others only grows stronger in the face of such adversity. The benefits that our veterans enjoy are always earned, never given. Sometimes earned by the steepest of costs. How they freely give of themselves back to us, this great state and this grateful nation, is a lesson in humility, gratitude, and leadership for us all. I personally have felt the magnitude of their service and sacrifice in my own life. And I can tell you that out of all the places I have been and all the people I have known, the veterans of the United States military are the best in the world. And it is this day, Veterans Day, that belongs to them. The impact that they have had on this country, this world, and all of us felt every day. I am grateful for that gift. Our great state is great in large part because of the indispensable role that veterans have played in fighting for its independence, safeguarding its freedom, and leading in civic service and economic prosperity. The North Carolina Department of Military and Veteran Affairs is honored to serve and advocate for our state's veterans and their families. North Carolina veteran service officers have assisted veterans in receiving over $11 billion in benefits and compensation for the year 2022. With over 730,000 veterans, more than 100,000 active duty military, over 30,000 National Guard and Reserves and their families, the military community generates 10% of the economic impact on North Carolina. PFC Henry Ellis, First Lieutenant James Wright, First Lieutenant Dorothy Austell, Staff Sergeant Millie Dunn Vesey, my dad. Those were the ones who came before us to lay the foundation for what this day has come to mean. And on this day, we honor them, and we honor those who answered the call to carry on their legacy and make their contribution to the ongoing story of the American experiment. We also honor those who have yet to answer the call, but will. The future generations of Americans, as of yet unknown, who will forge the path forward as a beacon of liberty and freedom for this nation, this state, and this entire world. I would like to close with a reading from the Gettysburg Address, which is still true today, of the immeasurable debt we owe to our veterans and their families. With malice toward none, with charity for all, with firmness in the right, as God gives us to see the right, let us strive on to finish the work we are in, to bind up the nation's wounds, to care for him who shall have borne the battle, for his widow and his orphan, to do all which may achieve and cherish a just and a lasting peace among ourselves and with all nations. I want to thank you all for taking the time to be here today and for allowing me to speak on this most humbling of days. God bless you. God bless this great state, and God bless the United States of America.
Andrea, thank you. What a gift. As we prepare to close, before I invite our color guard to retire the colors, we have a few other orders of business that I'd like to make sure happen today. And first is this: if you are here with us and have served in our nation's armed forces in any branch at any time, as you are able, would you please stand so that we can honor you? Thank you for your service, and please be seated. Events like this don't happen without a lot of work, but I want you to know that while we have a special ceremony to observe Veterans Day, we have a staff here at Fayetteville Tech that honors our veterans every day and works to ensure that they can access their benefits to gain an education and to move into our state's economic development and to the next chapter of their service beyond the military. And so at this time, I'm going to invite my MVPs, the Military and Veteran Program staff, if you would stand so we can acknowledge you and thank you. Appreciate you all, even Jack with the Navy hat on. Love you, brother.
Anchors away, bro.
I would be remiss not to give thanks to the amazing people here on our panel, our students who brought our national anthem, Reverend Carter, who offered our invocation, our state president of the VFW and man of Renaissance man, really, Jesse Bellflowers, Robin Newman, our director of the All-American Veterans Center, our amazing guest speaker, and our president. Would you join me in thanking them for their service today? And I have to give a special shout out to the first veteran that I ever met, who is in the audience today, my dad, Jay McCosh. Before I invite our color guard to retire the colors, I remind you that the United States military works for civilians. Let me say that again. The United States military works for civilians. And while we come from diverse backgrounds and we serve in different services, there's something common that we all do at the start of our military service. And so I want us to end with the beginning. Those of us that serve in the military all take an oath. It's an oath to support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. What I've been amazed at is many folks don't know what that Constitution is. And so I want to end with the beginning, which is the preamble to your Constitution and mine. We, the people of the United States, that's all of us, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. It's been amended. It will change, but this is what it is for which we strive together, those who served in our armed forces and those who walk alongside us, serving our nation in other ways. It's an honor to have had you here alongside us today as we celebrate our veterans. And following the retirement of our colors, I invite you to stay for a reception and to eat some unhealthy food, some cupcakes behind you. It's a pleasure to have had you here at Fayetteville Tech. Won't you stand as we retire the colors? Color guard, retire the colors.
Color guard, attention. Color guard, forward march. Color guard, halt. Color guard, retrieve the colors. Color guard, assemble. Color guard, right face. Color guard, forward march. Color guard.
Special thanks to Venture Crew 32 and the Douglas Byrd Jr. ROTC again for serving as our color guard. Thank you for joining us today, and please stay and enjoy the company of one another. God bless. Sorry for this early on.
Nope.
Nope.